Says that many Christians look upon the possession of free will as a sacred treasure from God above. The God of free will theism is an infinitely benevolent and undefeatable God who fiercely guards this treasure, not merely for himself, but for the good of his moral creatures, especially his image-bearing ones, humanity. First, he knows that free will is an indispensable master key that alone can unlock meaningful and loving relationships. If I don't have the ability to not love somebody, then I'm just
That's
a robot,
not really love.
and I'm not loving that person.
Yeah.
But also, it just seems to be, if I'm being controlled or tricked into it, then that wouldn't be the full idea of what real love. So this seems to say, this is the only way real love is possible, and we can make meaningful decisions this way, including
by having free will
or bad ones.
By having free will, yeah. So free will gives us, as he says here, the master key that allows us to love.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I remember making this point too. Why do people do evil things? Because we have the ability to choose. We have the ability to make good choices and bad choices, and we just keep making those bad ones. Is that what Scripture says? Second, he understands that freedom of choice is a properly basic feature of our humanity. So we are free because that is that makes us human. That's
who we are.
That completely free, devoid of all being controlled. And so ensures our ability to act in morally responsible ways. It means that our actions have legitimate, real moral implication and choices. And moreover, this treasure of free will also ensures that God himself cannot be blamed for the irresponsible use of it by his morally responsible creatures.
So this particular teaching of free will does a lot of work, it seems, right? It allows for love. It allows for us, it's part of who we are in terms of our nature, and it gets God off the hook with regard to being responsible for evil. So, come on, Christensen, right? Why are you going after this, right?
Yeah. Why did God allow the Holocaust to happen? Whoa, that's you to blame. That's nothing on God. So sorry, step back on. But there might be issues with that idea.
And so he says that free will theists employ free will for the problem of evil in what is known as the free will defense. We've kind of already talked about this in previous versions. So this response, he tells us, to the problem sees the preservation of free will as vital. Without it, good is not possible, right? So that's the importance of it, according to these folks. But he says with this comes, as free will, comes great risk, by its abuse. We can abuse it, right? The unfortunate reality of evil is introduced into our experience because we have this free will, so we can abuse it. He says the free will defense views God's providence as a noble model of, notice, self-restraint. Right? So God, allows us to make these various horrible decisions and actions, right? So the free will defense views God's providence as a noble model of self-restraint and non-interference, affording humanity a remarkable degree of autonomy, right? The ability to, act on our own.
Right.
Yeah.
Furthermore, it's often coupled with this natural law defense. Free creatures must have a world governed by predictable, stable laws in which to operate. Thus, God cannot be frequently interfering with those laws or human freedom. Otherwise, it would tamper with the environment in which free decisions are most maximized. So,
all right, so we have these two balancing being things, right? We have free will on one side, and then we have the natural law on the other side, right? The natural law, obviously, are the various laws of nature. And, of course, if God always monkeyed with the various laws of nature, then things would be chaotic. We would never know, what might happen the next time. We wouldn't have any prediction, and we would be in a mess, right? So we need this natural law idea is what he's getting at.
Right.
Yeah.
But how are we to assess these popular theodicies? Do they hold up under scrutiny of the Bible's testimony about God, about the Bible's testimony about human nature, and the Bible's testimony about moral responsibility? Because again, where is it grounded in? Is our grounding in our ideas of what we can reason up to and say, this sounds like a good idea of who God is? Or do we take what's revealed in Scripture and say, okay, let's see if our ideas match what's revealed as our ultimate standard of truth?
Right.
Is free will a rational and biblical response to the problem of evil? And so that's what this chapter gets into.